see ya. You in Montana right now?
I am in just outside of Spokane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So just hanging out at a coffee shop right now. Just pulled up to a new one because the last one just closed. So new
Oh, nice.
new Wi-Fi. It's
There
been
you
the day
go.
today, just hopping Wi-Fi's.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Editing all the
Yeah.
photos from last week's trip and taking care of paperwork. So,
Oh, good.
but
Yeah, where you been? You
how's it?
been?
Um. All right. So let's see. Where have I been? I started in Wyoming in Gillette. We hunted in Gillette for like a little under a week, and then we went to Sheridan and toward Weatherby, and then the wild. So there, the that first wildfire just died out like maybe a couple weeks before we got near Gillette. I forget the name of that fire, but anyways, it was 100 and something thousand acres, and we hunted right on the fringes of it. And then when we got to Sheridan to Tor Weatherby, there was the house. No, it was the house draw that was burning that went out. And then when we got to Sheridan, there was a new fire burning, and that one was like, by the time we left Friday night, it was like 5 miles from 90. So we ended up leaving early. Because there was talk about closing down 90. Um, and I needed to get to Billings because my uncle and grandfather needed to get flown back home. So it's been a wild couple weeks, week and a half. It's not even been a couple weeks; it just feels like it. Um, I probably look exhausted, and it's because I am tired. I'm tired.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's been busy. It's been it's been
That's good.
nuts. Today was nice to just like chill out and just hang out
Nice.
for a
Just
minute.
hang out.
Yeah,
That's good.
you've been seeing
Kobe
you've
there
been.
at the Weatherby.
What was that?
Was Kobe there at Weatherby?
He left like I think maybe a day or two before to head up for Alaska.
Okay.
So I missed him just by a couple days. But I talked
Yeah.
to I think his name's Coulter, who's like the marketing guy. We chatted a little bit. I went to show him my website, and over the course of the week, I just wasn't paying attention to it, and something happened, and my website quit working. So we got back into
Okay.
cell reception, and I like Googled my website, and I was going to show it to him, and it pops up, and it's like, this website has expired. I was like, oh, that was not cool. Was not happy with that. So
True.
hopefully he'll look it up later, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was
Nice,
cool.
dude.
Weatherby's got some cool stuff. After we left, like the bay doors into the. Have you been to Weatherby yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so hopefully you can go at some point. But when you like go into like the where they manufacture everything, they were basically like, listen, you can't talk about basically anything behind the doors. There's like some stuff like they manufacture all their rifles right there, which is rad. But next time we meet up, I'll have to tell you about some of the other stuff they got going on. Um, but just kind of what they're all about, and then the way they make their rifles, and seeing it all behind the scenes, I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy a Weatherby. It's like I
Yeah.
see why, I see why they got that reputation for sure. They've got some really cool stuff going on, and that new rifle they
Nice.
just launched, the 307. Have you seen that one yet?
Yeah, I have.
That one's pretty rad. So we got to check that out where they make that, and kind of some behind the scenes on like why that rifle's so special. Um, so that was cool. Um, Learned a lot about the history. Like I can't remember the name of the original owner. His first name, but just it's really unique how that guy would mess with different calibers and just like breaking brass and blowing stuff up just to find that perfect caliber. So it was neat, and they kind of recreated that when they went through and made the 307. So it's kind of
Dang,
cool. But
that is kind
yeah,
of
man.
cool.
Yeah,
That'd be wild to like. That'd be wild to be on the front, like building a like build a rifle out of from scratch. That'd be sick.
yeah, yeah. They've got 8 guys, I think it is, in there that build custom rifles. Um, and
Nice.
one of the guys that gave us the tour, he was the head tech for all the custom made rifles. And it's one guy that goes through and builds the entire rifle and assembles the entire thing. And then if you want, they'll shoot it too. And that send it down and they shoot that thing. And um, I think I think it's sub MOA or sub half MOA or something for all the custom rifles. Um, so when you get that thing, it's like it's ready to go. So it was cool. Be able to see all that and see the behind the scenes. It was neat.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's cool, dude.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we need to get a Weatherby to shoot for our next bear hunt, so we can
Yeah.
actually hit something.
Yeah. Yeah. What were we shooting
Yeah,
on the bear hunt? Was that a?
it was a Christian.
It was a Christensen's arm. Oh, okay. All right. I was trying to
I
remember when
actually
we were
figured.
there.
Yeah, I figured out kind of why it wasn't shooting good. Um, and the reason is like the ammo I was using. It's like it's like for some reason it's a hair too long for the action in my gun. It's like weird. So you know how like the bolt is really hard to close when you loaded a bullet. Did you
Yeah.
notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it was like getting like it was like jamming every time. So I bought some different
Okay.
ammo using
Yeah.
it, and dude, I went and shot today, and I was shooting like 900 yards or 800 yeah 800 yards like on the money like every time. Like
Yeah.
it was just like the
Okay.
ammo I was using. So sometimes you just gotta switch it up and try something new. But,
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess that does
um,
make sense too. That could be a problem. Shoving that bullet just a little bit deeper into the case could just. I mean, that
yeah,
would cause
weird
huge
problem.
inconsistencies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
yeah, got it fixed up. I'm shooting that one for a couple hunts this year, but Weatherby is sending me a rifle to shoot for this fall and for the spring and whatever as well. So
Nice.
we'll get to pull one of those around on our spring bear hunt this
Nice.
next year.
Who were you chatting with over at Weatherby?
Tyler Tyler's like Kobe's boss, I guess,
Okay.
but he's like the head marketing guy. Um, so he's the one that I was chatting with and kind of got it figured out with. But
Nice.
um, kind of cool, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Cool deal.
I'm
That's
excited.
exciting. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
excited. Kind of this.
but
I can't buy a rifle out here because I would have bought one at Weatherby because they've so many guns that are either seconds or just like available. Um, so I would have bought one
yeah,
if it would have been easy. But just with my home state regs, it just is ridiculous. So I didn't. But yeah, I'm definitely if I can't finagle Weatherby to send me one, I'll definitely be buying one eventually. Um, and I didn't realize it, but they make. I mean, I have to buy the more expensive model, but they do make left-handed rifles, which is rad. Because
nice
like, if I'm gonna spend that money, I want it to be a one that I'm gonna shoot and like to shoot. And
for sure.
not to like go kind of off the deep end with their rifles, dude. We walked into the showroom, and they had this like gorgeous walnut stock, like 300 Weatherby, with inlaid gold on the receiver and stock, and like just gorgeous rifle with like a high cheek. What do they call that? The high cheek weld, and it was left-handed, and I was like, oh man. And they had it discounted. It was like 2 grand less. I mean, it was like a $7,000 rifle, so it's $5,000. But I was like, oh man, this would be man. If I had $5,000, I would have bought it,
That'd be cool.
but not this
That's
trip.
sick.
So
Yeah, Maybe
But
next time.
yeah, you've been seeing some good elk though out and about scouting.
Yeah, my wife has an elk tag, so I've been scouting for her tag a little bit, and found some stud bulls so far. The hunt starts next week, so we'll see. But then the rifle deer hunt starts this Thursday, so just in a couple days. So
Nice.
I'll be out there for that hunt, and it's in the same kind of area, so I can kind of scout and hunt at the same time,
Yeah.
and hopefully find something good for her. But yeah, she
Cool.
will. It'll be her first elk ever, so hopefully find a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure you guys will get into them.
Oh yeah, I
Sounds
know
like
we
you
will.
guys have been putting some miles on, so you'll be able to find one.
Yeah,
So
lots of
be good.
scouting,
Yeah.
lots of work this fall. But yeah, dude,
Yeah.
you shot a doe the other day, right?
Yeah. Let's see. 2 weeks ago, back home in Mass, or well, in Connecticut. Yeah, me
Okay.
and a buddy, we went down and um, my friend Timmy had done a bunch of e-scouting, so I've just been busy, and I'd done a little bit, but he really did the heavy lifting for it. And we went down, and he killed on his second sit, and then I killed on my first sit. And
No.
he killed a nice, it was probably like maybe 120, 130 pound doe. And then I had a bit of a smaller doe, it was maybe 110. It's probably a year and a half year old. But happy with it. Didn't matter to me.
Man,
That's a freezer
dude.
filler, and dude, it was the best backstrap that I've ever
Oh,
had.
yeah.
It was where we killed those does. It's pretty flat, so it's easy terrain. There's a lot of white oaks, so even the acorn crop is a little less acidic than like red oaks with their tannins. And it was
Mm.
so early in the season. I mean, we got there for opening week, so I think I killed my doe September 18th or something, and it opened up September 15th. So, still oh, September 28th. Is that when September 28th? I think is when I killed it, something like that. Anyways, um, it's early enough that there's a ton of greenery. So she was coming back from literally feeding in backyards. So we just got between the developments and the bedding, and she walked right by and stopped at like 10 yards right below my tree, and you know shot her right there. She went like 60 yards and piled up. So
Nice, dude.
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, it was fun. It was a good little trip. And then on
It's
the
so
what was that?
it's so different than how we do it
Yeah,
in the West.
yeah, yeah. On the last day, we got our butts kicked though. We got set up
Oh
about
yeah.
half hour late, and we had while we were setting up, we had a doe walk in, but it was so thick that on the ground you can't see more than like 20 or 30 yards.
Wow.
And this doe walked up to like 20 yards, and it was like the tree that we were climbing up was directly between me and the doe. I had no idea it was there. And my buddy, he's like pulling his bow up, and I'm like, he's like pulling it up pretty early. Turns out he was trying to pull his bow up to shoot the doe. And I was like, oh, just
Hmm.
helping him get the bow up the tree, like so he didn't hit the sticks, like paying no mind. He almost shot that deer, jumps off. We get set up in the tree. I have a doe come in. Somehow we both missed it. It got well. I was facing east, and he was in a saddle, so he was kind of facing the opposite direction of me, and it came in from kind of the side of the tree that neither of us could see because we were in a double tree. So
Yeah.
where the doe came from was between the tree and him, and it was behind me. So it was a small window, but picked the perfect spot to where we missed it, and it got to like 15 yards by the time I saw it. So I got my bow and I'm getting ready, and the doe it was just working its way perfectly away, and it stopped at like 40 yards. I'm like, all right, like I can film this because she was just feeding. So I turned around and I grabbed the camera and I looked back over my shoulder, and she had pinned me in the tree, and
Dang.
like her head was fully right over her butt and was looking right at me, and she took off. And then we had a buck come by like 45 minutes later, and my buddy actually got a shot, and we got it all on film. And that buck just juked that arrow. Like you can see in the footage, like the arrows coming in, and it if the deer didn't move, it would have been like a double long, like perfect shot.
Yeah.
It was kind of quartered too, but no big deal. You watch that arrow go in, and that buck just drops. And that arrow, it like caught like just barely, like the very, very top of his back, and just right into the hillside behind him. And I'm like, oh, you missed, you missed. And it went off to about 60 and stopped, and just stood there for a couple minutes, like looked around, had no idea what happened. I mean, it knew something happened, but it didn't know where it came from. So it was just looking for
Yeah.
like what it was, and just decided it didn't like it anymore and just walked off. And yeah,
Mm,
that was a rough last day, but overall it was good.
dang.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. That's crazy. That's how
yeah,
you like to do it, man. You wait till the last day. Mm,
yeah, yeah. Thankfully, we had already killed 2 deer, so like that
yeah.
last day, it was like, oh, we're just gonna mess around, like film some stuff, just have fun, basically. But
Nice.
we definitely went home humbled that last day because
Yeah.
we were we got shown up a little bit. So,
Dang.
but
Nice, dude. That's
yeah, no, it
fun.
was good though.
Well, good man. Let's get into some like photography stuff and kind of some things that kind of the podcast is centered around. So,
Yeah,
um, I wanna I wanna go over because I actually you haven't actually been on the podcast yet. We recorded an episode, but it was in like the car and the audio was terrible, so I just didn't post it because it was too
yeah,
bad. But let's get into like how you got into the industry. How long ago was it? Kind of tell me just like your story up to where you're at right now.
yeah. Do you want the long version or like the quick version?
We can hear the long version.
All right. So the long version is uh, grew up. I think like most of us, we were surrounded by like blue collar kind of lifestyle. So since I was probably like sixth grade, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go be a logger or like some construction guy. So I went to mechanical agricultural high school. Went through the plumbing program. Did really good in that. Was like top three in the class. Loved that. Did that for work for co-op for a couple years, but I was doing residential plumbing, and you know was not a fan. Not a fan of that type of work. To the guys that can do it, go for it. Have fun. I'm not going to mess with other people's crap. So, um, I do like uh, construction. So I talked with my boss and I was like, hey, listen, um, I saw there's this opportunity to intern with this film company. I was like, I've always been interested in it because, I had started hunting around 14. So about the same time I was getting out of middle school into high school, I was starting to hunt. And that grew over, my high school years. And my senior year, I was like, all right, like I don't want to do residential plumbing. There's this kind of neat internship opportunity. Let's see what my boss has to say. And so I went and chatted with him, and I was like, hey, um, you know, right now I'm getting paid minimum wage. Like, um, either can I do new construction with a little bit of a raise, um, or I'm gonna quit and I'm gonna go do this internship. And what he said to me was, well, you have to work to earn a raise, so I'm going to keep you at minimum wage, and over time we can move you into new construction. And I was already making way more money doing firewood on my own out of the back of my pickup truck. I mean, you've seen that truck. It was the one we took, or I drove out for that bear hunt. So it's a rough little truck, but it was making me more money than plumbing was. So I was like, all right, well, you know what? Here's my 2 weeks. I'm just going to go do firewood on my own. Let's see, I was 18. So I was like, I'm going to go do firewood on my own, and I'm going to do this internship. So I went and filmed for a couple weeks on the internship filming turkeys for Just Hunt Club, which they're based out of New York, and filmed for them. And then throughout the summer, I did like landscaping and a lot of firewood. I mean, that year I delivered like 400 cords of firewood, hand stacked into the back of my pickup truck, hand stacked out, and delivered to and from like all over Massachusetts. And then that fall, uh, I guess they liked me enough that they decided they could pay me. So, I mean, I wasn't making much more than I was making doing plumbing, but I was 18 getting to film whitetail hunts and bear hunts for work. And I had no camera gear or anything. So did that and, had a ton of fun with them. Um, it was definitely a bit of an adjustment working with different people. A lot of different people have different mentalities, especially within the hunting industry. And um, that was kind of a rude awakening. You have to kind of understand that not everybody's going to have the same ethics as you do, or the same standards of respect for the animals that you work with. And that was kind of difficult for me. So, and that's not something I sacrifice on. Um, so, and I'm not in any way bashing Just Hunt Club. They're a great crew of guys, and they work really hard, and they're a really successful group. Um, there's just certain things that I just was like, you know what, I enjoyed this, but it's time for me to go find something else. So if you do have if you're East Coast and you have the opportunity to go and intern with them, like take that opportunity because they're a great crew to learn from. They've got a ton of good knowledge. John, he worked with multiple TV shows. He's worked with Cabela's for years and years and years. He's done a ton of really cool stuff within the industry. And the same thing goes for like Brett Joy. He's, I would say he's like probably one of the uh, best known Northeast um, archery deer hunters, maybe, or right, well, New Hampshire deer hunters for sure. At least in my book, he's probably one of the best up there. Um, and then let's see, I filmed for them for. Let's see, when did I graduate? In 21. I filmed for them for the 21-22 seasons, 22 and 23 seasons, and then the fall of 23. After filming for them for a couple of years, I started freelancing. So I started Mountain Bird Media in January of 20. Well, in September of 2022, and just over the fall, kind of got that up and rolling. And in 2023 of January, got that up on its feet, and started freelancing full time. So you know how that is. It's not full time, but we like to call it full time. So
Yeah.
I was still doing firewood, doing landscaping, doing whatever I could to make extra money, and putting way more money than I should have into camera gear and into trips. And that's I guess the other thing we can get into too was I I, I think it was a good thing. I probably could have gone about it a little bit differently, but in the fall of, I guess it was last year, I didn't really have that many jobs lined up. I was filming for Just Hunt Club, as a freelancer, which is cool. And I had like small jobs, but like there wasn't anything real like tangible there. There was no like big dollar tickets coming in. So like
Hmm.
I wasn't making any money. So I was like, all right, how am I gonna, like, I'm obviously not, quitting is not an option. Like that's just not gonna happen. But what can I do with my time? Because I have it. I don't want to film myself. I don't want to be a vlogger. I don't want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a photographer. I want to be a videographer. I want to be a cinematographer eventually. How do I use my time now to become that while also not deviating from that into the whole YouTube side of things? Because that was totally an option. I could have spent that fall filming myself and probably would have done all right. But instead, what I did was I found a couple hunts that I thought were kind of interesting, and I was like, listen, I will come out and I will film you. I'll buy my plane ticket to you. You take care of my food while I'm there, but I will film you essentially at cost because I think your trip is cool. And for one of the hunts, it was a really unique hunt, and I was able to get a couple companies on board. Um, Not necessarily paying anything huge, but they have turned into good relationships and into paying clients. So one of those, which I know you know well, excuse me, because we've talked about it, was the mountain goat hunt with Ruger. So that hunt, I found out about it it was either July or August, and it was happening in October. So I put together like 8 pitches to like a bunch of different companies. Like I pitched Vortex, I pitched Onyx, I pitched um, who else was on there? I think I pitched Loopold. I pitched like a couple backpacking meals. I pitched uh, I think it was Seek Outside. I pitched like a couple others I'm not remembering, and like I got no's from all of them. And I was like, oh, like man. And I was like, I was so proud of the little slides I had put together. I was like, oh, these are great. Like, just one person's gonna say yes. No, nobody said yes. I was like, oh man. I was like, well, I'm still gonna do it. And so I was like, you know what? Like, there's this like company of like their website looks cool. Like, their clothing looks okay. Like, I'll pitch them, I guess. So I emailed their marketing director, Gabe Stoll, and this is Thalit, and Thalit Gear down in Tennessee. And I was like, hey man, like, well, a little bit more professional than that. But I was like, hey, I got this hunt coming up. Here's what we're doing. Are you interested? And he was like, you know what? Like, yeah, we're interested. Like, we have a budget of like $3,000 in gear, so you know, we will send you like that amount of gear if you just get us, a good amount of photos in return. So we set up, an amount of photos that would reflect that price, and we set up a bunch of gear, got that out to Ruger and his dad and myself, and we went out and I shot some of my what I think are some of my best photos I've taken. It's not difficult to take good photos when you're in a location like that, but just I'm still proud of some of those photos and really happy with how they turned out. And I since that trip, I've had multiple people tell me like that was such a good um, such a good thing to do. Like going out and doing that. I probably could have been a little bit smarter about it and not have done it at cost, but whatever, live and learn. Um, that hunt in particular I think I made a huge change on. Let me mute this real quick. It made a huge change, I think, in my photography, or at least started kind of that little trajectory change. And, I kind of followed Kobe's example and made the photo book and brought that last year to the expo. And from there, it I think that really helped us. I think get that bear hunt. Um, we had gone and chatted. I had stopped at the Wilderness Athlete booth before that. We had gone and chatted with them and showed the book to them, and they were psyched with it. Grakksaw thought it was wicked cool. Marsupial thought it was rad. Um, which, if the Marsupial guys are listening to this, like, message me. I'll still want to work with you. Um, and let's see, I think that kind of helped a little bit. A lot of the companies thought it was really cool, and those photos were ones that they commented on in particular. Um, yeah, and then now we're basically to here. Um, I've done some weddings and other stuff over the summer between our bear hunt and motocross. Oh, I do a lot of motocross stuff in the summertime. Um, so that's fun. Fills in kind of the dead space in between hunting seasons. Um, yeah, and then now we're here. So it's at the point where it's kind of halfway, I guess, to where I want it to be, which is decent, but still got a long way to go. So, yeah, I guess that's my little story about being stubborn and not wanting to get paid minimum wage.
Nice, dude. That's good. I mean, I love it. Um, like you said, like you're halfway there, but dude, like you've grown so much more just in this years than you would have if you just did construction and plumbing. Like,
Yeah, yeah, and
so
I think I'm halfway there to that goal I set at 18.
yeah,
Like now I've set much different goals, and I'm like 0.01% of the way there. But at 18, I would not have thought that I'd be, you know, in Wyoming and Montana and Idaho and Washington over the course of a month, and filming for different companies and have retainers. Like that's not something I would have thought of at 18, you know. So yeah, it's definitely cool to be able to be like, oh wow, like I've come a little bit farther than I thought, but I have I have so much to learn for sure. Like you really understand your shortfalls when you're out here and you're on a job. You're like, wow, I see where I need to improve on. Like, and you got to pay attention to that and actually improve on it, because if you don't, especially at our young, like we're both, I think we're the same age, right? Yeah.
yeah,
We if we don't adjust quickly, I think it's noticed faster, and it's easier for that to negatively affect and taint our, um, uh, what we are exposed as to the industry, if that makes sense.
for
Um,
sure.
but
Yeah, yeah, that does make sense. Kind of on that note, like what this year, this fall, what are some of your biggest takeaways that you have realized or put in practice so far this year?
um, I think my personal biggest one is organization. Um, I'm a notoriously unorganized person. Um, and I
Yeah,
think,
we've talked about it before.
yeah, and I just think that comes from, uh, I think that's kind of known. Creative people oftentimes aren't the most organized, and I am
Yeah,
not organized. So learning organization is a difficult one for me, and I know companies don't like to hear that, but sorry, that's the reality. Um, so just learning how to organize deliverables, keep in mind deliverables while I'm shooting photos, um, and just keeping that in focus, because like I don't know about you, but when I'm on a trip and I'm shooting photos and I'm filming, like I'm involved. I'm 100% there. I'm not thinking about
yeah,
what I need to do when I get home. I'm not thinking about like, oh, did I get like, oh, are they gonna like that logo placement? Is that just right? Like I'm thinking about this hunt. I'm thinking about these animals. I'm thinking about this person I'm working with. I'm thinking about the wildlife around me. I'm thinking about, the ecosystem I'm in. I'm thinking about the mountains, like whatever it is, like I am fully involved here, you know, in the present moment, as, silly as that sounds. So taking, I guess, a step back and being like, okay, like I can still do that, but I just need to keep in mind, and for me, I have it on my phone. I need to have physical notes. I also have I picked this up a couple weeks ago, well, a couple months ago, like a notebook. It's super simple, but like every day that I remember to, I go through and I write down, you know, did I accomplish what I needed to do today? If not, what didn't I accomplish? What deliverables do I need to get on an upcoming hunt, or what deliverables did I achieve on the last hunt? What can I do better on the last ones? How do I improve them? Because you can always improve. Like you should never say you got it perfect because you didn't. And
Yeah.
then, just kind of continuing to keep that in writing, I think is helping a little bit. But for me, the progression's slow. It's not, it's not a quick progression. So that's been the biggest takeaway this year, for sure.
Yes. That's a good one. That's good. Good stuff to work on. What are some of your goals off the top of your head for like yourself and Mountain Bird Media over the next few years?
Yeah. So, well, for me personally, I do a lot of volunteer work. We've talked about this in depth too. Um, so, not that I'm torn, but if the opportunity presents itself, I would love to be able to do volunteer work full time. Me and my family, we do a lot, whether it comes to local volunteer work or relief work in like places. Like for example, we just had that like terrible hurricane come through down south on the East Coast.
Yeah.
When the opportunities come up, like we want to be there to help because people need it. So if I have that opportunity, I will 100% just put the photography on pause to spend some time to go do what really matters. Because at the end of the day, the photography, it's what I want to do, and it's a really cool job and it's a lot of fun. But this really doesn't help people, you know. This doesn't make any like giant changes in somebody's life. It's not. It's not. I mean, it is fulfilling. It's really fulfilling. Um, but when you can take scripture and apply that directly into people's lives, not only in a physical way but also like spiritually help them, um, that makes you feel way differently than being in the mountains ever will. So I would absolutely go do that if I have the opportunity. um, so if that happens, great. If not, for Mountain Bird Media, I would love to continue to grow it to the point where I'm working on kind of the next year and a half to 2 years. I want to be able to work on at least 1 to 2 projects a month, and there's quite a few cinematographers out there that I really um, really look up to and like their content. So kind of over the next year, I want to get onto a project with one of those cinematographers and be able to work with them and just learn about that, and also buy a dedicated cinematography rig. Um, be able to dedicate, an entire Pelican case to a C80 with a couple cinema lenses, and just have a really nice um, camera rig that I can just fully focus on videography, and then I can have my R5 or whatever camera I have at the time for my photography. Um,
Yeah.
because I don't know about you, for the organization thing, and this is something I wouldn't say it's been a big struggle, but I've noticed that having to do the hybrid thing, it works fine. It's not a huge deal, but at times I do struggle with, well, which one do I really want to do? Because I know what I have to do, but I like photography. So sometimes you want to capture it through photos instead of video when you know you should be doing video. Um,
Yeah.
so being able to kind of separate those two would be really great. And being able to have jobs where I can say yes or no to a video or photo and just solely focus on one thing, you know. And I know you know this well, and maybe the viewers don't, but with there's not a large market in the outdoor industry where that is a, a possibility. It's really only large companies that have the budget to be able to fund um, a photographer and a cinematographer. Most of the time, they need to hire a hybrid shooter. So it takes time to break into essentially, that 10%. So, over the next couple of years, that's my goal.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love that, dude. It's it is hard in this industry to just focus on film or photography because most of the time you're the only guy on the trip getting content, and you have to capture both.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Most of the time, it's really true.
Yeah.
And so, but dude, I agree with you. Like that's somewhere that I want to be in a spot too, where it's like I'll just do like a video or just photos on a trip and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
be separate like that. But yeah, dude, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, well, good, dude. I think we're kind of good on time. We'll have to record another podcast in a few months or something and go over some more stuff and recap the year. But you'll be at the Hunt Expo in Salt Lake, right, in February?
Probably. Depends on where I'm
Yeah,
at, I guess. But maybe I might be there. We'll see.
maybe. Yeah,
Um,
that's good. That's good.
so I think I
Where
will be.
Nice. Where can people find your work and find you online?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. Just search Jamin Davis, JaminDavis, and you'll see my personal account come up, and then you'll see Mountain Bird Media come up. So you can request, and if you look cool, I'll let you follow me. My personal, if yeah, or you can just follow the Mountain Bird Media one. Um, and that one I post just out of respect for the people I work with. I usually wait 6 to 8 months to post the stuff I shoot, so it's kind of a delayed post on that. But let's see, and then you can also go to mountainbirdmedia.com, mtnbirdmedia.com, and that's got let's see, that's got photos from our bear hunt. It's got photos from mountain goat, whitetail in the Northeast, a bunch of stuff for Thalit, stuff for Alpen Fuel and wilderness athletes up there. And then like there's a little bit of motocross, but that's not a huge focus, so it's kind of buried at the bottom. And then there's like a list of the companies I've worked with. So yeah, those are kind of the three main spots you can find me at.
Nice, dude. Well, good, man. Stay on for a second. We can chat, but we'll end the podcast. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and we'll catch you guys next week.